welcome everyone. It's good to see you, and as always there are so many topics and so many things for us to talk about. But I believe strongly that one of the failings of the liberals of our community is that after we have a contest, an election, or some issue comes up before the county commission, the city council, and so on, we spend too much time, or we rush to celebrate or cry a lot, and do not spend enough time in evaluation. And so we are faced today with the fortune with what looks like a win, and we'll turn to Vicky to tell us whether this is a win or not. And then let's talk about and understand what the three smartest things that were done to keep a fuel farm out of Palm Coast, and what three mistakes, and perhaps three things that we would want to do in the future when we arm ourselves. But Vicky, why don't you bring everybody up to date on what's going on?
Well, that's a lot, but I think
yes,
I have the answers. I do.
Okay, good.
So last week, myself and many members of our community found out, spur of the moment, about a fuel farm that could be coming here to Palm Coast. And when I looked into it further, I realized that it would be in my backyard, literally within a couple of miles of my home. And of course, you know, I care about other people anyway, but it really affected me personally as well. So right away, I took charge. And last week, after we met here, Conversations of American Democracy, I went straight home and I made a paper about what people could do immediately. How they could join a Facebook group in regards to it, how they could sign a petition, how they could email locals, leaders, how they could call local leaders. And I brought it to a group that evening. I brought it to a group of 30 people and put it into the hands of 30 people right away. Well, within 48 hours, there were many signatures on the petition. There were many calls and emails being made. There was a lot happening right away. So each and every day since then, since our last meeting here, there have been efforts to move the fuel farm from Route 1 in Palm Coast somewhere else, preferably not in Flagler County. So last night, one of the efforts that I made with some other locals was going to the City Council workshop meeting. And at that workshop meeting, Mayor Norris was saying that he had decided that the fuel farm should not be in Palm Coast. All of the other members on the board last night agreed and said the same thing. And then right after the meeting,
that would be what a big victory that was. It's amazing you got that to happen.
We felt like that was a victory, and myself along with many other people. It takes a team. It took all of our phone calls. It took all of our emails. It took all of our showing up to the Flagler County Commissioners meeting. Every single effort, every effort matters. Well, then last night after the meeting, a statement came out from Belvedere, the fuel farm, saying that Belvedere believes that they are a safe and reliable and lower cost way to bring a critical resource to the community, and they've tried to work closely with all elected officials at the city and county level. And the recent statement by Mayor Norris comes as a surprise to Belvedere. And they've worked months with Mayor Norris, and they are going to continue to pressure Mayor Norris, and they believe that their fuel farm belongs in Palm Coast, not Flagler County. They believe that their fuel farm belongs in Palm Coast. So they're going to keep pressuring our mayor to have the fuel farm here. And Belvedere remains confident that the proposed facility is an extremely safe and reliable way to bring vital economic growth to Palm Coast, and look forward to continuing to answer any and all questions. And I hope that the mayor is not going to flip-flop, and his council is not going to flip-flop, and they're going to remain staying with we the people. But then the next step is the county. So many of us here in this group even showed up at the Flagler County Commissioners meeting this week. I did stand up and speak, and another one of our members, Mark Webb, he stood up and he spoke. And I remain concerned about this fuel farm staying in Flagler County. I would like to see it moved somewhere else, not in Flagler County, because there's much research, and hopefully some of you can weigh in on that. Where these fuel farms are, there's a lot of cancer in those areas. We don't want that for our residents. We don't want our babies going out for walks in strollers. We don't want our elderly going out for walks at the beach and having this fuel farm exposure and potential cancer right nearby. So our fight isn't over. Although that board said what they said, and we heard them, and they're on tape saying that, it is not over. And now the county has to be talked to and emailed and called about our concerns, because they are looking at a potential site around the government buildings. My daughter works in the government building. Do I feel comfortable with her going to work every day being exposed to toxic chemicals? No, she probably doesn't want me saying that because she values her job, but I value my daughter. And so we are going to need to continue our efforts. They said last night at the meeting that they were surprised, overwhelmed even by the calls and the emails from all of the locals. So we all did a great job, and every action matters, and we all showed up in a different way. So we need to keep that up. Did I answer all those questions?
Yeah, well, not all of them. So that's,
Okay.
by the way, it's a side issue, however. How do you evaluate the Belvedere statement, particularly in view that they say we've been working with Mayor Norris or with the city for months?
Right.
Yet
it was very secretive.
It was to be in Ormond Beach, and Ormond Beach only rejected it in the past 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. So how is it that they were working?
Thought.
So are they honest? But that's another.
Is who honest?
Belvedere,
Our local elected
Belvedere,
officials
yeah.
or Belvedere?
Yeah.
Who's being dishonest?
That's the question.
They might have been working on all of them at the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
So
if Belvedere was halfway smart, they'd have more than one opportunity.
Which they probably are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, you put together a team and used a multi-pronged approach, Facebook groups and petitions and going in person and so on. So that's something we can learn for the future. By the way, even when candidates run it, to put together a team, and there are some known liberal candidates who really are a one-person operation and don't put together the team. Were there any other keys to success that you haven't mentioned?
Those are the keys to success, I believe, because we had one step to success last night. However, now we need to move forward, because that's just the city. So now we need other local officials, like maybe the mayor of Flagler Beach. Maybe the mayor of Flagler Beach could come out and make a statement. How about Rick Staley? If you look into things, you'll see that Sheriff Chitwood in Volusia put out a statement saying that he didn't think that the fuel farm should be in Volusia and that they were very dangerous. And
what about our farm chief? Because it was pointed out that that type of a fire requires special training. Maybe our fire chief
and
should
equipment.
make us.
And it was raised last night that it really should be around a lot of water, and that's why Jacksonville is successful, having fuel farms there. Is there really a lot of water near where the sheriff's office is, where they're looking at land there? I am about these fuel farms not being in Flagler County, and I hope that all of you will be behind that as well.
And I think we agree, but what 3 things did you wish you had the time or the resources to do that you didn't get done?
I think that if we could have gotten more signatures on the petition, which that is still necessary, honestly.
Wasn't it already over 1,000 last I talked?
Right, but from what I'm
That was
told,
so amazing. You did that in like 24 hours practically.
which that is amazing, I agree. However, from what I'm told, Ormond getting it moved out of their city and county, they had over 20,000 signatures on their petition. We got 2,000 within a few days, so that is amazing, I agree. However, I've been talking with other leaders who are passionate about this cause as well, and they've said, do we need to be in front of big chain stores? Do we need to be in front of churches, asking people as they come out? The library, busy areas at busy times. So that question has been raised because even though we had a victory last night, I'm sorry to say, it's not over. For a split moment in time, I thought it was over. Well, I thought it might be over in my own backyard, but now, according to this statement from Belvedere, no, they're going to keep pressuring our mayor. They're going to be in the ear of our mayor. So we need to make sure that our mayor does not flip-flop again. I said to him last night in the meeting, my last statement to the mayor was, are you with us? Are you with we the people? Can we count on you? And he said, yeah. He finally said yes. So, as you were saying, people can flip-flop.
Yeah.
Are there any politicians that are for it, openly?
Well, I do know of one government official, and I won't say any names, has said in a government building that they're for it. And I have had one of our local members here.
That's an elected official?
It's an official. It's a government official. It's a government official. And one of our own members here that spoke the other day at Flagler County Commissioners meeting was saying, review other areas it could go. And review, could it go near the sheriff's office? Well, some people are feeling open to that. I personally, my own view, I'm not open to that. I do not want these farms in Flagler County, and that's my belief. It's 10 miles down the road? I'm still not comfortable with that.
A fire can move really fast.
I agree.
10 miles is nothing.
Yeah, and fumes.
Nothing.
Fumes and
Toxic
leakage.
fumes and so on. Yeah.
I agree.
Why did they need this?
Well,
Why did they
Same
need this?
tax money that they want it in
Wow.
Palm Coast because they're gonna be able to collect taxes from them and, supposedly create jobs, but as I understood it, those jobs are gonna be 30 jobs. I mean, it could be the same as what, BJ's has in
Right.
their warehouse.
for engineers that they will probably bring in from out of state. And it won't be you or me. It will be engineers that they will bring in. And what the plan is, Kurt, is to have these fuel farms all along the coastline. So maybe one here, maybe one near Miami, maybe one, all along the railway. They purchased the railway, am I correct, Nero?
Yeah,
Can you help me?
Grupo Mexico, and I did not know that, but CSX and FEC, Florida East Coast Railroad, is folded into CSX, which is the Chesapeake system, there's a C, was bought by Grupo Mexico. So whether we say yes or no to this, Grupo Mexico is going to own those lines, and they don't have a sterling safety record either. And there comes a point, and this has come up before actually, tracks go down alongside downtown Bunnell. It says, what's in those tank cars and what would happen, and are we prepared if there's a derailment and a puncture of a car and so on. And we keep citing, you can look up what went on in East Palestine, it's pronounced Palestine, Ohio, and that's still in courts and there's still millions of dollars involved. But I would ask a bit, has anybody recognized that our nation struggled with the issue of the Keystone Pipeline to bring actually shale oil from Canada to the Gulf Coast? I won't say the name of
Native American
which Gulf. Yeah, well, but the ultimate problem was that that's going to be old style energy. Yeah, it's burning fossil fuels. It's what we're trying to get away from. What Belvedere wants to do is encourage or make sure we have enough. And
our oil reserves right now are the highest they have ever been. We have enough oil right now to do the entire globe for 10 years, okay?
$55 a barrel now.
Yeah.
Another,
We're gonna be paying $2 a gallon.
just a piece of trivia along with that. While our reserves are quite high, at the current rate of global consumption, we have 47 years worth of
47.
oil left. That seems like short term to me. I can't believe there isn't a little bit more panic in industry for making some major changes. But at the present rate of consumption, we're talking about 47 years worth of oil, and then we're done. Globally.
It's about the quarterly profits, not half year, not end of year, not next year, not 5 years. Quarterly profits. This quarter, that's all that matters.
So what are they storing there? What kind of fuel? Well, I know a lot about fuel because I worked in the business, and I just want to know if it's number 2, which is diesel, or number 1 is kerosene, and of course then there's gasoline and various grades
I think
of
they were
gasoline.
talking about gasoline.
That's what I heard.
I-
It was just
And
It's
why are they
many
doing
things, and I
that?
have the answer, but it would take me a moment to find it. But it's many things.
Wait, the
and
answer to which
I
question?
could.
Oh.
Kurt
What
was
we
asking
have-
what would
what
be
was
stored there, and I
stored
have the
Oh,
answer.
so I thought it was diesel and refined gasoline, which I hadn't.
That's what she's
for-
looking
yeah,
at
for the
to make
pump.
sure.
Right, for the pump is what. By the way, that 47-year figure I understood is as long as we continue to maintain nationally and even internationally the fleet fuel efficiency requirements, which of course our current federal administration wants to pull away. And if we go back to monster tanks on the road like we knew in the 50s and 60s with with 15 miles per gallon or 20 miles per gallon, we're going to be less. It'll be less than 47. But literally, we're only in welcoming, and I don't even think we're welcoming, and allowing Belvedere Terminals, we're encouraging the use of what is very quickly going to become an outmoded form of transportation. By the way, it is the same city council that had a grant to put electric car charging stations around town and refused. They are old school. Part of what we're saying is the 20th century thinking, and people have not made the transition into the 21st century. By the way, you see that, and we can talk later about tariffs. You'll see that tariffs are on goods only, tangible things. Tariffs are not on intellectual property. Tariffs are not on software. Tariffs are not on coatings and services and things like that, because the people around Donald Trump are think in terms of manufacturing. And by the way, and they want return American workers to the assembly lines because we were all so happy on assembly lines.
And these new factories will all be computerized. They're not going to have that many people. The robots and, that's the whole thing with the immigrant crap as well.
Yeah.
They're taking your jobs. They aren't taking anybody's jobs. The jobs are going to computers.
Yeah.
The jobs are going to AI.
Yeah. And by the way, I've discovered looking at the fuel terminals around the country, they are more and more computerized. And the estimate that, well, it was only, 20 more engineers at $100,000 apiece. Just like the building industry here, the residential building says, we're going to employ people who are low. The people who are building them often come from St. Augustine, Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, and so on. They're not necessarily locals. For better or for worse, we're largely a retirement community, and there aren't any 65-year-olds on the roofs putting up, laying shingles.
And all those companies relied, especially in Florida, they relied on a lot of undocumented workers. So now there's a worker shortage. So now our wonderful governor has put a bill that has passed saying, it's okay for kids to work some of these jobs. So we're going to have 10-year-olds up there nailing down roofing tiles.
Right.
Overnight.
But the issue of that we need more employment in this county, I don't think.
We're going to need another Francis Perkins.
Yeah.
We're going to need another Francis Perkins to come along to get rid of child labor again. And back in the early 1900s, they had children working all night and sometimes 12 and 16-hour days, and we just passed a bill saying they could work night shifts.
Yeah. So I think we all agree that Belvedere Terminals, that any kind of fuel terminal, fuel storage facility on our county, and our city, and our community is just not anything we want. And so the price of keeping it off, to misquote Thomas Jefferson, is eternal vigilance. You know, and as Vicky says, we're relying on the word of even the sworn testimony of politicians, which is worth about nothing.
Also, the grant money for this that they were going to put through on Monday, and that's the reason why many of us showed up at the commissioners meeting, was they were going to approve the grant money on Monday, and they didn't, thank goodness. But to my knowledge, that grant money would expire, I believe, in June of 2026. So they can pull the trigger and they can say yes until that time comes. So that's how long we're going to need to be emailing, calling, and
That's how long it took in Ormond Beach to get rid of them too.
But you know what? The opposition, it's not related to money. It's not, and so if they were to give each of us, cut each of us $1,000 check, would it change our mind? Every resident in Palm Coast would add $1,000 if we put a fuel farm in. Would it have enough support to pass?
well, Merrill, along with what you're saying, is according to the monies that I believe would benefit us, in doing the math, I think it averages out to somewhere between $6 to $8 per person.
Yeah.
If that's the truth, wouldn't we all rather give the $6 or $8 than have these toxic chemicals around us? I don't think that's much. The benefits are not great.
I think actually we would do very well collecting $10 a person to help subsidize the purchase of a location in Putnam County.
Okay.
Somewhere else.
Okay?
I'm on board.
You've all been to meetings or parties in which they said you had to pay $5. I said I would pay $10 not to have to go. And this is a case where it should go. It could live and be well so far away from us, someplace else.
There was some good political news this week, though.
Okay, good. That's good to hear.
Yes, there were over 2,035 local demonstrations across the country. That was in February, and we had even more.
By the way, the New York Times reported on St. Augustine's hands-off demonstration.
Ah, I didn't know that.
They-
I saw some great signs. I love some of the picture ones that they had.
Yeah, they were great.
There was one of my favorites was, it had a giant tick and it said it was a deer tick. It had a small tick and it said it was a dog tick. It had a picture of Trump that said it was a lunatic. Laughed my butt off. I sent that to like 50 people. There were some really good serious ones. Resist Like It's Germany, 1938.
Yep, love that.
Even Salt Lake City. They had a mob in Salt Lake City, Utah, people. I was very impressed with that. And their best graphic was Stop the Shit Show. I thought it was wonderful. I really, really liked all that. There's also a new book two new books I want people to know about. One is by Adam Chandler. It's called 99% Perspiration. Does American Culture Still Work? And it's about how our work life is taken over. And Gloria Marshall Brown, that's a hyphenated last name, wrote The Protest History of the United States. I thought maybe that would be of current interest to people.
So to switch gears a little bit, you know where Carrabba's is, not far from Walmart and so on. So behind it is a store called Dollar Tree. Do you expect there to be a Dollar Tree in 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months?
With 100% tariff?
104, don't forget. And I don't know how they got to 104. Yeah,
well, if we're taxing penguins, hon.
I would just assume, and I don't know that much about economics, but if you impose China, 104% tariff, So if I bought something in Walmart last week for $20,
Yes.
next week it's going to be $40.
Yes.
Well,
Plus 4%.
you know, it's interesting, Merrill, because I do go to Dollar Tree quite
I do
often.
too, I mean,
And I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but all of the items aren't $1 anymore, they're $1.25. So it's already
they have
happening.
a small $5 section now too. I mean.
Yeah, oh, I noticed that.
I was in there yesterday to buy a couple of greeting cards. They used to be $1.
Right.
They're $1.25 now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, everything.
So there we go.
Nothing. I don't think there's anything.
Nothing less than $1.
Yeah, it's all dollar. Cool.
I haven't been to the
Right.
supermarket since they raised it. I'm absolutely worried about going into the
The
supermarket.
whole going after tariffs at the level that Trump is doing seems to me, the way I interpret it and the way I see it is this. If you have an income tax, a graduated kind of taxing situation, that makes wealthy people pay more tax than you and I. If you replace that with tariffs and say, oh, the government can make as much money on tariffs as they can with income tax, except if I pay $10 for something, Elon Musk pays $10 for the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so we're not really distributing the cost of carrying the country very evenly. And I really think that's the angle. I really think that's the big angle, that we can reduce taxes, almost, look at, in terms of what they're doing to the IRS and everything, get rid of income tax, spread the burden to all of the other people, as opposed to the wealthy people are paying 40% of the load right now. I think the upper 1% are paying 40% of our taxes. I'm not saying that they're being overtaxed, but I'm saying that is the reality. We get rid of that, you and I are paying that.
Yeah.
Well, 125 years ago, or whatever it was, we got rid of tariffs and came up with an income tax because it was a kinder, gentler nation, and people agreed that the tariffs were punitive to the majority of people,
Right.
and income tax was the way to go. So it's relatively recent
Right.
that we had the income tax. Now we want to do away with it.
Well,
So we're back to
I don't know about that we,
dog
but
eat dog.
So we haven't learned the lessons of history. You know,
No, right, exactly.
So,
We're going right
yeah,
back.
yeah.
What was the whole system 125 years ago?
It was tariffs.
No, yes, and who collected them? The
customs and treasury.
Yeah.
So the two most important people, or the most important job that the president doled out, because it was a spoil system. That's the way it all worked. Was the customs house in New York, and I was just in Charleston, and they had a big customs house there, and it's a big port of entry, and that's where they did. They tapped all that. But then the spoils went all down. And how many presidents were shot by angry spoilsmen in the 100 years before?
And the Teapot
Does anybody
Dome,
know?
Teapot Dome scandal.
Yeah, well, Teapot Dome was later, but
Yeah.
how many presidents, including Roosevelt, that went after? You know, he got shot on the tour too by angry spoils man. But there was like 3 other presidents,
Joanne?
Cleveland.
I just said 3.
Yeah.
And can I add that that's the reason why we have income tax. That's the reason why Teddy Roosevelt stepped up at the turn of the century.
God, we need another
And-
Teddy
and-
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We need another Teddy Roosevelt
yeah.
because right now all the money's going to the 1%, which is what he managed to
Yeah.
break up. We need another Teddy Roosevelt.
And Franklin after
actually,
that.
all we need is Teddy Roosevelt's spine.
Yeah.
Yeah, because spines are in short.
Yeah,
supply,
we don't need somebody running around killing all the wildlife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Meryl,
think,
I have 3 responses to Kathy and Kurt, if you don't mind. First of all, the hands-off rallies were extremely successful. And part of that played into media talking about it, and also social media. I was in charge of our local rallies, and I put information about hands-off into many hands. I put it onto a Mobilize app. My phone was going off like crazy. unbelievably so. And I went with some other local people to 2 locations here. And at one of the locations that I was at, someone who usually helps lead rallies locally said, I've never seen anything like this. And it was because of the links that I put it on and the people knowing about it
Right.
and the people responding. And so at one location, we had approximately 200 or so people or more. And at the other location they were overwhelmed. They couldn't believe it. About 300 or more. And that is not typical for Palm Coast.
Right.
Um,
I made
and
a sign, wasn't able to get there.
so it was social media that really did that. So that's one thing that I want to say. And then you were talking about books. And I'm with you on all of that. And there's one book that I've been looking at getting that I'm interested in because I'm feeling overwhelmed and bombarded with news, and I think that's one of the tactics of this current administration. And one thing that I've been looking into and thinking about and reading about is rest is resistance. And it's okay to take a breather and take a day or a week or whatever you need to recuperate and feel better and feel okay, and then get back in it, because we all need each other. And there's so much going on that it's overwhelming. And so I am a leader in a local group, and I've really been kind of pushing that recently because I need to take my own advice
Yes.
and find time
You do. You
for
so have
rest as resistance. And then I also wanted to respond to Kurt. I do have an answer of what would be stored in the 80 acres next to the water treatment facility here in Palm Coast. They would like to store 10.7 million plus gallons of gasoline, 4.6 million plus gallons of ethanol, 4.6 million plus gallons of ultra-low sulfur diesel, 315,000 gallons of biodiesel, 30,000 gallons of additives, and 160,000 gallons of propane. That's what they would like to store in my backyard.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting because that's not the initial reports. But I want to point out that's again because there are politicians who believe that communications is a task, and it is not. It is a campaign. It's over, and that's why Vicky's set upon. But it's day after day of communicating and getting the word out in all sorts of media and all sorts of avenues. And if we want to move forward, we have to continue to bombard. And I think that I think that recently what's going to happen in the headlines of Flagler Live and so on is going to lull people into complacency that we've successfully put off Belvedere Terminals, but I don't think they're going to go away that quickly. And I don't think...
Right. So showing up at the meetings is vital too, because having all the people in the room, I mean, they take a head count as soon as they get through the door of what's going to be protested, and they know who's there to protest what.
Well, you know what? We don't have to protest, and that's what this latest turn gives us an opportunity to avoid the problem, and I've dealt with this earlier, of being what Spiro Agnew called nattering nabobs of negatives. We can go to congratulate the politicians on taking a brave stand and laud them and praise them through the roof on what a good job they've done in standing up to Belvedere Terminals.
They did that last night. People
we
clapped very loudly.
We can speak positive. We have other times when we bitch and moan and be negative, but here's an opportunity to be positive, to say.
Right. Anybody that we can get on our team of what's best for our community, we need them on our tein. So let's join
talk
ours.
about your group, Indivisible Flagler. You got the shirt on. I mean, that's one of the ways to join in getting the information. She's fantastic at getting information out on that Facebook group.
That's the campaign.
Oh my goodness, it's so great.
Yeah. So that points to the fact that we gather each week and we talk and we flap our jaws and exercise our tongues and so on. But in fact, there's real action to be taken, and we can't be complacent. We can't sit on our collective rear ends and do nothing. And we have an avenue, and we need to continue to be eternally vigilant and make sure that our community stays safe. So I thank all of you, and we'll do it again next week. Vicky, final word? No?
About staying on top of people. You know, many of us went to the meeting last night. Many of us went to the commissioners' meeting on Monday, and I just wanted to add that the next commissioners' meeting, because hopefully we've got Mayor Norris and the people that work with him to back getting the fuel farms away from Palm Coast, hopefully. But the next Flagler County Commissioners meeting is Monday, April 21st at 5 p.m. So anybody that can make that meeting, that would be wonderful.
Great.
You know, in my opinion, we all have a vision of what Palm Coast or the county ought to look like.
Right.
What you mentioned with all of the fuel and types of fuel, I think that would be,
That's not what we're here for.
I think that would be devastating in the minds of anybody that moved here.
I
Was it
painted
50
the
years
picture
ago?
last night at the
Of course I
meeting
will.
of babies in strollers and elderly taking the walk. I painted that picture at the meeting on video. And so I'm hoping people are envisioning that, because we don't want chemicals surrounding any of us.
Guys, so thank you very much, and let's, by the way, thank the Rotondos and Suncoast Media for
5
making
o'clock.
this, and this is an avenue of communications as well. There are people who respond to videos, I don't understand it, but they do videos rather than audio things, and
This
We
says.
thank you on camera.
we're grateful, okay, we're grateful.
What if I text this to you?